Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin, the discussion behind Assassin's Creed Shadows and Yasuke, and whether or not he's an appropriate protagonist and whether or not he is or was actually a samurai by the end is rather heated at the moment, and I have a few things to say. This is, I guess a little follow-up. I still hold the same opinions, and I'll get to those towards the end of the video, but in this situation, can you imagine, think about this if you will, if Ubisoft had come out with their trailer and people started having the discussion of, wait a minute, Yasuke wasn't actually a samurai. Historical documents don't actually show, like actual historical documents, not Wikipedia, don't actually show, or there aren't enough records out there to confirm one way or another that Yasuke was actually a black samurai, or if he ended up having the label of samurai by the time it was all over. He was a retainer, and you'll have people discussing, well, retainers, bringing up the definition of retainers in Japan, saying some of them were samurai, a sword bearer, some of them were samurai. Ultimately, Yasuke, when discovered in Japan, there's no denying this, he was a sideshow freak in Japan, right? But that's the representation you want? Sure, fine. That's fine and dandy. You have your own opinions on that. But if Ubisoft had come out and saw the discourse and asked the questions, had come out and simply said, this is a dramatization and this is the direction that we wanted to move as Yasuke, as a main character, to more showcase, and I kind of brought this up, someone brought this up and I read their stuff in my last video, to more showcase the fish out of water, the difficulties he's going to have in this game, and left it at that and allowed the discussion to go further. Maybe, just perhaps, knowing it's a dramatization, the discussion perhaps could have died down, but obviously that did not happen, because immediately you come across everyone screaming, "You're a racist!" if you question whether or not Yasuke was a samurai. Well, you just don't want black people to be in a samurai. No, we're just asking about the validity, the historical accuracy of this choice. Again, I can't imagine Assassin's Creed games being all that historically accurate, because you go gallivanting through the memories of your ancestors with a fancy science time machine. It is what it is. Dramatization. You could have left it at that, but you didn't. People spurged out online over and over again, and boy, oh boy. And you have to wonder, which side escalated it first? When you cannot have an open discussion on any of this, what do? Well, you start banning people. Apparently, PlayStation 5 subreddit permanently bans users for being disappointed that Assassin's Creed Shadows did not feature an Asian male main character. My goodness. You start banning people simply because they want to discuss it. What on earth are people supposed to think? I believe they're going to start thinking that you have an actual agenda rooted in DIE. Rumor of Sweet Baby Stench's involvement, considering Kim Belair is a former Ubisoft employee. What else do we have? My goodness, Assassin's Creed Shadow sparks Wikipedia edit war. Now, if it's not that big of a deal, why on earth is there an edit war going back and forth over and over information on Yasuke? Now, what sort of proof do we have on this one? Well, if you come over here to the good old Wikipedia page, and there's lots of edits, but starting around, these are March 22nd, starting around, let's scroll up a little bit. I hope y'all can see this wonderful little page here. Let's see, May 15th. Let's see where we're going to have May 15th. That's the 13th, all the way out here at the bottom. May 15th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I even break off on tangents in my videos. 13, 14. My goodness, it's one edit after another, trying to return it back to its original state and edit to say something that maybe is not completely historically accurate, and it just keeps going and going and going. There is a massive, holy Moses, I didn't realize it was this big. That's what she said. It goes on and on and on. There is an edit war on the Wikipedia page to either, I don't know, you make the decision on who is correct, who is incorrect, who Yasuke was or is or should have been, but the idea, the fact that this is happening over and over and over again on a Wikipedia page, it's a fictional game with a dramatized main character, then why are people so adamant about making 100% sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that Yasuke is labeled a samurai? It almost makes you wonder what sort of agenda, what sort of message they are trying to push with this. Well, I for sure know what kind of message they're trying to push because, well, dear, all across social media, especially the so wonderful cesspool that Twitter is, if you do not like the idea, if you disagree and want to have some sort of discussion about Yasuke and his validity as a samurai, well, obviously, you are a racist. If you question whether or not an Assassin's Creed game being set in Japan should have, I don't know, both characters, both protagonists, male and female, to be of Japanese descent, well, then obviously you don't want a black person as the main protagonist of your game, which absolutely anyone with higher than a room temperature IQ and did not get raised on paint chips knows that to be a complete and total load of bullshit. But, of course, we got the usual suspects, all the people that want to sling out racism. If Assassin's Creed has used a white protagonist, no one would be crying about woke DEI. Are you absolute bell end to say something like this? If they would have come out and made Assassin's Creed with the female Japanese ninja and a white male protagonist, based on a historical figure? No. People have been clamoring for Assassin's Creed to enter Japan, enter feudal Japan, and see what that world would be like. Perhaps instead of a samurai, maybe have them both as being ninja, being stealthy. Remember the idea of what Assassin's Creed's supposed to be? Blending in with everyone around you. I am curious how Yasuke is going to do that, but that's neither here nor there. But the idea that if he was white, you wouldn't have a problem with it, well, there's a special word for you that we can't seem to use anymore. Next one, for the melanin phobic and fragile. Who the hell is melanin phobic? Yes, because that's right, ladies and gentlemen, we just don't want black protagonists in our video games, which is a complete and total, again, if you have higher than room temperature IQ, you know that to be false. This is a false narrative, as usual, being pushed against the argument, against the question of why isn't the Assassin's Creed video game set in feudal Japan have a Japanese male protagonist as well as the female protagonist to go along with the female protagonist? Why is that happening? And I know I've said it's a fictional game, it's a dramatization, but it is a valid question. It is a valid discussion. It has nothing to do with being melanin phobic. You want to do a video game about Yasuke? Do a video game about Yasuke. Maybe not do it. Maybe don't let Ubisoft do it. But again, that's, you figured that out for yourself. Just know that you can choose to play as either one of them. I'm sure people are going to play as both characters just to see what the story's going to be like. But to sit there and say and call all of the discourse behind Yasuke and samurai and why is a black man the main protagonist in a game set in feudal Japan based on a real life character, dramatized, to say that it's based in melanin phobic and fragile, well, that's kind of foolish. You're trying to ignore the question, ignore the discussion, and sling names left, right, and center, which is, that's what you do when you don't have an argument. Because we said so. No, let's have the discussion. Let's just have the conversation. Ubisoft Dev has confirmed that outside of a few moments, you can play almost the entire game with one character. Now, I know there's quite a few games out there that are able to keep track of what players do, what characters they play as, what actions they do. So this will be a wait and see thing. And I have a funny feeling, despite all this discussion, that both characters will be played relatively... Actually, I think people are going to be playing Yasuke a lot more. No offense. Sorry. Neo, don't say that. Yao, that's a whole different story. Neo. I'll say Neo. The unfortunate part in all this thing is that Neo, the ninja, shinobi, whatever, she is getting absolutely no attention in all this, and I do see that as a bit of a shame. Who else do we have? Well, we got more and more, and this is one of my favorites. People who attacked Yasuke from Acheron's... I keep wanting to say Acheron's Call. Jesus Christ, I see AC and I see Acheron's Call. From Assassin's Creed Shadows because he's black, which is not actually what's happening. They're asking, why isn't he Japanese? They're not angry because he's black. They're angry because he's not a male, a Japanese male, in a video game set in feudal Japan. Why are you trying to gaslight people? Why are you trying to distract from the actual argument? Are the same ones who attacked Kay Vess because she's fucking ugly as hell and shouldn't be in the acting, and the facial animations were shit, from Star Wars Outlaws, which is also going to be another shit game. God. Because she's the woman, you are racist and misogynist. Tell me you don't have an argument or a counter argument without telling me you do not have a counter argument. This is the argument again, or finally. This is what you do when you do not have a defense or an answer to the questions that are being asked. You sling insults. You call people racist and misogynist when I think, well, sorry, I may not believe it is the number one problem, and that's fine, but it is a problem. It is a discussion. It is a question. But heaven forbid anyone tries to have a civilized discussion on Twitter because, well, if you don't like this, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're an istophobe, because more and more it has seen that as these developers, these producers, whether it's video games, TV, movies, or something, they are checking that box and making sure the main character, the protagonist, or at least one of them in the case of Assassin's Creed Shadows, at least one of them is a minority that you can use as a shield. There's a lot of people seeing it like that. It's happening across movies. While you don't like the Marvels because strong women. No, we didn't like the Marvels because it was shite. It was absolute garbage. We're not interested in Star Wars Outlaws because, well, the main character looks disgusting and you're hiding all the kinds of stuff behind a paywall with obnoxious price points. Nobody, well, I can't say nobody's going to be interested in Shadows, because here's where the problem shows up. Because according to Pirate Nation, maybe you're not the one to be showing this off. More people are pre-ordering the $110 edition of this game. It's also ranked #1 in Japan, PS5. My goodness gracious me. 3 sales? Only... Oh, so 3 sales? I also saw another post where the collector's edition is sold out at their local brick and mortar store. And again... these are all problems with this game, with the narrative, with the historical editing, if you want to see it that way, the representation, using checkboxes and ideological choices to protect your shit game. And yet still, people are buying a $110 edition of a game for what exactly? I get 3 days extra. You want to own the chuds? Go ahead and waste your money to own the chuds. Be my guest. By all means, but you're sending the worst message possible to all these developers that, hey, we're going to put out 110, 130, 150. What's next? $200 editions, you get a 3-day pass, a 3-day head start, along with all these cosmetics in a single-player game that are absolutely meaningless in the long run. Stop doing this. Stop pre-ordering games. Stop sending this message that these developers, that these video game companies can just milk you for every single red cent you have before the game has even come out. Just think about Redfall and Anthem and how those games turned out, big steaming piles of garbage. And hell, despite it being my most beloved game of all time, think about Cyberpunk 2077, even with the reviews. Y'all need to stop doing this. But anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Leave down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike. Do all those nifty little things that YouTube is back to do. And I hope to see you on the next one.